Hello, and welcome back to the Application Insider YouTube channel. I'm so glad that you are joining me today as I talk with Helory Kojongian about her experience going through the dietetic internship application process. She just went through the spring 2021 match and she did land an internship through that process. She is sharing how she approached her entire dietetic internship application, help that she received, and resources that she used, as well as her own approach to making sure she kept track of every single step along the way, and that she was able to hit submit early, 4 days early on February 11th, so that she was well ahead of the February 15th deadline. And everything worked out for her because she did get a match, and you'll hear where she will be doing her dietetic internship. So let's welcome Helory and hear what she's got to share about her dietetic internship application experience. All right, I'd like to welcome Helory Kojongian to the Application Insider podcast. Welcome, Helory. I'm so excited to chat with you today.
Yeah, thank you, Nicole. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm so glad to be here, and I can't wait to share with you all what I have to offer.
Yeah, okay. Well, just to start out, why don't you share a brief introduction of yourself? Tell us where you are, maybe if you want to share your DPD program and where you're headed towards your internship, that would be great.
Yeah. So currently I'm completing my DPD program at Cal State Los Angeles, and I will be graduating this semester, spring 2021. And I plan to become a clinical dietitian, hopefully in a hospital setting first, because that's where I really see myself, and in the future, perhaps private practice as an RD.
Awesome. And you just went through the spring 2021 match, right?
Yes, I did.
Awesome. And you matched to the, I have it written down. Oh my goodness. Tell us where you matched. I'll let you make the announcement.
Sure. I matched to Cal Poly SLO, and I look forward to sharing more about, how I decided and, what got me interested into this program.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so first question, and I know this sounds like a personal statement question, but why did you choose dietetics as your major?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked this question. So for me, it was a bit of a non-linear path. I definitely started back when I was a freshman in high school, kind of leaning towards something in the health and medical field. I knew that I really wanted to serve my community just by helping others, but I've always had that passion for learning more about how to better our lives in terms of like health and long-term well-being. So I started taking my interest into nursing because I have a lot of relatives that were already nurses. But the more I learned about the field, I just, slowly got a hold that it wasn't really for me. Like having the super, hands-on contact with patients. And, I know that it can be a bit stressful at times being a nurse in the hospital. So I decided that I was gonna find something else. And then I ventured into pharmacy. I got my pharmacy technician license in my senior year of high school. And what drew me to that career path is it's a very clean environment, and you're still helping patients, but in a more different way, like um, just educating them about medicine. And I worked as a technician for about 6 months. And then I also realized that it wasn't for me, just because, it was very focused on medicine, and there was a very small aspect of health and nutrition and just lifestyle in general. So what made me get into dietetics is I took a general ed course in my community college for nutrition, because that was required for me to transfer to a pharmacy school. And I absolutely just fell in love with the material. And of course, the professor, she just did an amazing job sharing her passion. And she is a real RD as well. And yeah, first day of class, I was so intrigued, and I went up to her right after. And at the time, I didn't even know that you could have like a full career and make a living out of being a dietitian. So yeah, she just, told me about her story and what school she went to, and, the internship she completed. And from there, she kind of became like my mentor, like helping me choose programs, DVD programs to transfer to, and just kind of encouraging me along the way. And yeah, that's how I got into dietetics.
Awesome. So as I'm watching this video, your face like lit up when you started talking about dietetics. So it really sounds like you're in the right place right now, and love that you're moving forward with it. It's so great to see that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. So you just went through the whole DI application experience and process. So let's chat about that a little bit. First off, how did you narrow down the number and type of programs that you applied to?
So I first started just making like a list of features that were really important to me.
Perfect.
For me personally, it was the location. I only wanted to stay in California to keep the costs down, but also to stay like reasonably close to my family. We're currently in like Northern California, Bay Area. And the second was a program that was either an MSDI, like a master's combined with an internship, or an internship on its own, and that it was clinically focused, because I do see myself as more of a clinical RD rather than like community or food service. That's what I really looked for. And then I went to the Ascend directory, which where you can like kind of input what kind of internship you're looking for, and also the location by state, which I thought was really great.
Yeah.
And from there, I believe for California, there's only about 30 dietetic internships on that directory.
Mhm.
So it was pretty easy to narrow down which ones kind of stood out to me. And I ended up choosing 8 at first, which was UC San Diego, Cedars-Sinai, SFSU, UCSF, UC Davis, Nutrition Inc., and Cal Poly SLO. And I chose these more because of the location,
Mhm.
and they were all around the same cost and had the same focus. And then, I've heard from other students that you don't want to apply to too many, not like, beyond like 5 or 6. I don't know if you've heard differently.
Mhm.
But yeah, so from here, I told myself, okay, I have 8. So now I need to make kind of like a pros and cons chart, just kind of see like, more of the details, like who's the director, and do they have like a virtual open house that I can attend to get more info? And most importantly, do I see myself actually living in this area for a year and perhaps continuing my career in that location?
Mhm.
So that's what really helped me to narrow down. And I finally ended up choosing just 4 to apply to, which was UC San Diego, Cedars-Sinai, SFSU, Cal Poly SLO. And then at the end, I added a distance one, Nutrition Inc. I don't know if you've heard of them before.
Mhm.
And the reason I did that is because, with COVID and everything, I just wanted to make sure that I had a backup plan. And, if I needed to like just stay home and kind of do things more virtually, that was an option.
Mhm.
But it definitely was not at the top of my list.
Mhm.
And yeah, I would say that's how I decided what internships I wanted to apply to.
Awesome. I love that you said you started out with what is important to me, what elements am I looking for? And I think that's a great place for anyone to start. It will help you, figure out what elements you need to look for in the programs when you start doing your research. So for you, it was location and emphasis. And for someone else, it might be the price, or that they know they want a distance internship, or that they know they want to relocate to a different place. So all of those elements are so important. And starting with what's important to you, I think is really, really wise, because then you're not maybe realizing later on that you made compromises on something that you aren't as excited about, or something that just isn't going to fit for whatever reason. So that's a great place
Right.
to start. As far as
Yeah.
the number, um, the average number of programs that people apply to it's always been about 3. When
Okay.
we look at the data, it's always 3 point something. I think in the
Mm.
spring 2021 match, it was like, I want to say 3.63. I have seen the data. I'm not verifying it as I say that number right now, but it was 3 point something. So it's always round about 3. And of course, there are some that apply to more and some that apply to less. So it sounds like you, with 5, you were a little higher above that average, but there's no magic number by any means. And you got your match. So that's great.
Yeah. Oh, good to know.
Okay, let's see, how do I want to phrase this? When before the DICAS deadline did you actually start working on your application? How much time did you give yourself to put it together?
Yeah, definitely. So I actually, I was able to kind of chart out a timeline, like reflecting back on what I did. So Cal State LA, what's unique about them is they created a new class called DICAS Prep 1 and DICAS Prep 2. Yeah, it's so great. And it's all thanks to, the professor who created it.
Mhm.
Basically, you take DICAS Prep 1 in the semester before you're going to apply. So I took that class in fall 2020. And that's where we kind of start, putting our, the elements of the application together. So in November 2020, I started drafting my personal statement and, just putting my ideas together, what I really wanted the directors to read about and, hear about from me. And towards the end of November, I started doing peer editing. Um, I wish I had done a bit more, but I only got about 3 people to
Mm.
look at my paper. I know some people will go above and beyond and, maybe do like 10. And then by the beginning of December, I pretty much had my personal statement finalized and drafted. And all I had to do was, look at the different programs and then see how I could tailor my personal statement to fit their mission statement and what they were looking for more.
Nice.
And then at this point in December, I kind of went back to my resume and looked to see if there were opportunities to fix any phrasing, kind of add more volunteer or jobs that I hadn't added previously. And then I created my DICAS account. So that was exciting. It's definitely like a different program, something that I've never seen before. And my professor, she had us just start inputting like the grades and, our DPD coursework, any volunteer activities, awards. And I'm really glad she had us do this, even though it was like only December, so 2 months before the application was due, just because as simple as it sounds, I feel like it was quite time consuming, and especially for the different like extracurricular activities and awards, I kind of had to go back, dig through my files, double check the dates, all that stuff. And moving forward to the end of December, I reached out to my references
Mhm.
because I really wanted to make sure I gave them, at least like 1.5 months to, just take their time and not feel stressed out that they needed to get me a letter right away. And I ended up going with 4 references, even though I only knew that I needed 3, just because I wanted to make sure, things happen and sometimes, commitments are made and then, uh, they're not able to actually, make possible
Mhm.
in the end. So that's what I did. And then at the very end of December, like the last week, even though it was like holidays and finals, I decided to just go through each program and make a list of the requirements, like on a Google document. And then just kind of like a checklist to make sure that I really knew, like, okay, like, I'm set. Like, there's nothing that I need to worry about. And for 2 of the programs that I applied to, Cedars-Sinai and UC San Diego, they required a supplemental application.
Mm.
So I kind of had to like spend some time on that. It almost felt like I was drafting another personal statement, if you know what I mean. And beginning of January, that's when I started ordering my transcripts, finalizing the supplemental applications because they did need to be mailed as a hard
Mhm.
copy. Yeah, so I really wanted to make sure it got there on time. And then following up with my references, that was something that was very important because for my work reference, she is not in the nutrition field, so she did not know anything about DICAS or, how she was supposed to write the letter. So I just wanted to make sure she fully understood what the purpose of this letter was for. And also following up with my professors who were references as well, just a friendly reminder.
Mhm.
And I signed up for D&D Digital because that's a very key step.
Yes.
Yeah. And then February comes around. This is when, everyone's a little bit stressed out, but I just kind of took a final look at my personal statement and then my resume. And I actually, I remember going through your website and I believe you provided some sort of checklist for
Mhm.
like DICAS. So I use that. Thank you so much. That was super helpful.
Perfect.
And making my payments and double checking that, I really, want to apply to these programs. And then I submitted it. I submitted my application, I believe on February 11th. So 4 days before it was due.
Nice. And this year it was due actually on a Monday, which when the 15th of February falls on a Monday, it is President's Day. So you probably beat that full holiday weekend with
Yes.
your deadline. Awesome. Okay. I love that you took so much care with each step, that you were very conscious of giving references time and giving the reminders, that you went back continuously. Are these still the programs I'm interested in? Maybe having a gut feeling check or just double checking, do I have everything they're asking for? And it seems like it was a really clean and clear method, and it worked out well for you to be able to apply a few days early. And obviously you got your match, so you had a very great application having put it together that way. So that's wonderful.
Thank you.
That's really nice too, that your program has that class that could help you through each step. And even just having all the students working on it together and being able to, I mean, I'm kind of imagining there was some collaboration or some talking and brainstorming, just making sure that everyone knew what they were all working on and could share ideas if possible.
Yeah, definitely. We were able to just share with each other and, share the excitement, but also the challenges and
Mhm.
questions.
Awesome. Okay, when you were working on your application, was there any section or any element that you had an initial concern about or anything like that? And if so, how did you go about kind of clearing it up or addressing it?
Yeah, I guess my first concern was that I didn't have enough volunteer hours or dietetic related experience, just because throughout like me going through college, I felt like all the jobs that I did and the volunteer work, which wasn't very much, was not really in the dietetics field specifically. So that was my major concern. And how I went about that is I went to the virtual open houses for all of my programs that I wanted to apply to. And I asked the director either in the end or in the chat, you know, um, how important is volunteer work and how important is having a job or some sort of dietetics related experience. And to my surprise, a lot of them said it's not, at the top of the list. What they're really looking for is basically, you know, any of these, experiences that you've had, what are the key, features that, are going to help you in your future career. So that was a huge relief for me. And I, kind of used that to help me craft my personal statement and my resume in a way that I was drawing the connections between that job and my dietetics career.
Mhm.
For example, I worked at a company that was dealing with mostly like supplements. And while that's not like nutrition or like giving people advice on, healthier eating habits. I shared how I was working with a team and collaborating, which taught me to be adaptable to different personalities, different, work environments. And also the impact of COVID taught me like, we just really, have to stay on our toes and, be adaptable to different things that can happen. And because I see myself as a clinical RD, I know that I'll have to work with the medical team, and I'm sure that, it's going to be very dynamic. A lot of different things will happen. So that's what I did. And I guess my second concern was finding a good work reference. In the beginning, before I learned about all the requirements, I thought that the references could just be my professors. But I did notice that all the programs wanted at least one work reference. And that was a bit of a challenge for me to select who I thought, would be a good candidate, just because I know that, we're not able to read the letters. So, you just have to kind of put full trust in that person. So for this, I kind of also made a list. You can probably tell I'm a list person. And I just kind of put like, what's my relationship with that person? What's kind of like, how do they view me? Like, what do I think they would kind of say about me, and things like that. So that's how I kind of chose my work reference. And I'm guessing it worked out well. I don't know what she wrote about me, but yeah.
No, that's really good. I love that you asked the questions that you needed to get the information on, especially tying in your experiences to where you see your future career heading and how you'll bring all that with you. Even if it wasn't from like a dietetics position, you're certainly gaining skills that you'll take with you moving forward. And then, yeah, I think it can be a surprise when references there's a request for a reference that sees you in a work setting and is not just a professor. And obviously that's because the person that you're working with will see you in a different light, in a different setting than your professors will. And I love what you said about just thinking, how is this person, how do they relate to me? What is it that they might say? And again, the care and methodology you've put into selecting, each step along the way, I think really shows, obviously. I'm also a major list maker. I love checking things off and crossing them off as I accomplish them. But it sounds like that really helped you narrow down people who would be a good fit to support you in this, writing a reference or any other element of your application. And you're right, you don't get to see what your references submit. You get to see whether or not they have submitted, but you don't get to see what they write. But like you said, it must have worked out. They said some good things about you, I'm sure.
Yeah.
All right. You mentioned that you looked at Application Insider and you used the Ultimate DICAS checklist, which is awesome. That's one of the free resources I have. Is there anything else any other resources you use from Application Insider to help you put your application together?
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually this very podcast. I listened to so many episodes, but I guess the ones that really stood out to me were, I believe you did like a review of kind of like the steps overall, like through DICAS. Also, I remember it was either in your podcast or your Instagram story discussing how the matching works, because that was something that made me pretty nervous. And all like the peers around me were also super nervous because we were kind of like, I think this is how it works, and just things like that. So it was really helpful that you kind of broke it down and, just laid it out like, this is how it works. This is an example, and it's not something to be super stressed about. So that was definitely really helpful. And I believe there's a blog post on your website about like how to speak to directors or something like that. So yeah, that was really helpful as well.
Good. I think starting those conversations is really important. I don't remember what the exact blog post title is, but it's something about communicating with directors. So I'll put links to everything you mentioned so people can find it. The one that you mentioned, the matching and how the algorithm works, the whole reason I started Application Insider, honestly, is so people don't have to be like, I'm crossing my fingers that I hope I guessed right in how this works or what the next step is. I want people to feel more certain and just have that understanding in this is how it works and this is how I should approach it. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's why I put all those resources together. I'm glad that they worked for you and you could refer to them throughout your process. Okay, not that anyone ever wants to go back through DICAS after they've received a match, but if you did go through the application process again, is there anything you would do differently or something you would tell yourself about going through it again?
I think something I would tell myself, and also for like other students that are going to go through it or want to rematch, is just work really hard to plan ahead and find a way to incorporate specific pieces in your daily schedule, because I believe most of us will be doing it while we're still in school, or we're working a full-time job even, or pursuing a master's degree. So just do your best to keep the stress level down by incorporating it into like the daily tasks that you have to do. For example, like if you want to start drafting your personal statement, maybe put like, after, your homework hours, that you're going to write the first paragraph about, strengths and weaknesses, or
Mhm.
yeah, just little things like that. Because I remember going through certain parts, especially the personal statement. It was a bit stressful because I was kind of like, am I doing this right? And I was also kind of, looking at my peers' personal statements, because, we helped each other edit and things like that. And I felt like, I was just unsure. And from that, I would tell myself, just be more confident in what I have to put out there. And each person has a unique experience. So, I don't need to like compare and, things like that.
Yeah, that's really good advice. I love the thought of breaking things down instead of thinking I have to write my personal statement, or even I have 30
Mhm.
minutes to write on my personal statement, but being really specific. I'm going to spend 30 minutes or 60 minutes on this question, or on, just my strengths or just the weaknesses part of the question. That can make it feel more manageable. And like you said,
Yeah,
down into daily tasks and not letting it build up to a time crunch situation where you're just kind of trying to get everything in there at once.
right.
That's a great piece of advice. Okay, so I know you haven't started your internship yet, but do you have information about when you will start, or maybe what your first rotation will be, or anything like that?
Yeah, we are going to start some sort of like online courses in July. I don't have too much information yet, but the director of Cal Poly SLO, she said we'll probably meet once a week, like live on Zoom, and then throughout the week just have some assignments to work on.
Uh-huh.
And the purpose of this is to kind of refresh, all the material that we learned in our DBD program, because some students, they are, they took a gap year, or they're, in a master's program, so they may have forgotten some of the material in their bachelor's degree. So I'm really excited for that. I think, that's a really great idea.
Mhm.
And I actually start at the end of August. I don't have information about what rotation I'm going to start with yet, but I'm hoping maybe community first, because I feel like starting clinical first, I know it's going to be a lot of information. So I'm hoping maybe starting in community or food service and then going to clinical. But either way, it's going to be great.
You'll get through all of them and it will be a
Yes.
wonderful experience. Awesome. Well, I'm excited for you to be able to start soon. Hopefully you can
Thank
enjoy a
you.
little bit of a summer break before you jump into classes again.
I hope so.
Okay. I know I already asked for advice, but for every episode, I like to kind of sign off with a potential action item that listeners could do that will help them in whether it's with their application, their education in general, or just getting ready for their careers. So do you have an
Yeah.
action item like that you could share?
Yeah, I would say mainly focus on the end goal and don't be discouraged if those around you are moving faster, or they may have more on their resume. I truly believe everyone has a unique journey, and reflecting back on everything that I did and what led me to the dietetics career. As you guys can see, it's like it's up and down. It's definitely not a straight path. And yeah, I would say just don't be discouraged, and also just try to look forward and utilize the resources around you, of course, like Application Insider, and get advice from your peers, your professors, and continue to make realistic goals that work for you.
Wonderful. I love that advice. Thank you so much for sharing.
You're
And
welcome.
thank you so much for being here on the podcast. Do you have any place online or on social media where people can connect with you if they'd like?
Yeah, you can connect with me on Instagram. I can put it in the chat, but also it's just my first name, Helory underscore Kojo. And I'm also currently running the Nutrition Club Instagram at Cal State LA, which is CSU Student Dietetic Association. And yeah.
Awesome. I'll put both of those in the show notes so people can follow up on those links and connect with you if they would like. So thank you so much, Helory, for sharing your experience, your advice, your suggestions. All of it was so wonderful, and I know will be so helpful for students who are listening.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
I really appreciate your thoughtfulness for the references that you contacted and thinking through who would be a good reference for you and being very mindful of their time and just giving them lots of lead time to write for you. I think that's really important to realize that they are more than willing to help in 99% of cases. There's always going to be some weird nuance, but that you were so thoughtful and recognizing that they could do this service for you and that they were willing to, and that more time and reminders and things like that would be beneficial for them. I don't know if a lot of people think about that for their references. So as someone who has been a reference for many people, I appreciate that you had that thoughtfulness for them.
Yeah, thank you. I've asked for references before, like for jobs, and you know, I know that I've never been a reference before, but I can imagine like it's you're taking the time out of your daily
Mhm.
things to like write this letter, and it does take a lot of thought. Like it's almost like writing an essay about
Mhm.
someone. So yeah, I definitely just wanted to make sure that, they felt comfortable, but also, like give them the gentle reminders, um, because I did want to submit my application with the references.
Mhm. Yeah, it's if you're aiming for an early deadline, even though like you can hit submit before they have, it's really
Hmm.
comforting to know that they have done their part when you hit submit, and like you hit submit and it's all on its way and you don't need to follow up with anything afterwards. So
Hmm.
awesome.
Yeah.
Good approach. Okay. A giant thank you to Helory for sharing her application experience. She shared so many wonderful suggestions that might be really helpful for you as you're working on your own application. I love that she made a list of everything she needed to do in DICAS, and that she also used the Ultimate DICAS checklist from Application Insider as a secondary resource just to make sure that she wasn't missing anything and she could keep everything on track. There's a link to the DICAS checklist in the caption below, so make sure you check that out. It will be a great resource for you to use on your own application. I also really liked how mindful Helory was of the other people that were helping her with her application. She gave her references more than enough time to write their letters and to fulfill their part of the application. She gave them reminders if they needed it. And with all of that, she was able to hit submit a few days early before the February 15th deadline, knowing that her references had already done their part and that she had checked and double checked and triple checked every part of the application along the way. So she knew she wasn't missing a thing. That is how you want to be able to hit submit, knowing that it is complete and you are confident in everything that you have put together. So thank you, Helory, for sharing your tips for doing that. Everything that we mentioned, if there is a link associated with it at all, is in the caption below. So go ahead and check that out. There are also links to connect with Helory on Instagram if you would like to reach out to her. I know she'd be more than willing to answer questions or share additional perspective if that will help you. And with this insider insight, your application is sure to stand out.